What's up, guys? This is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and today I'm bringing all of you guys an updated version of my Chaos Dragon deck for this April 2015 ban list. So, I know it's a bit odd that I'm bringing you guys an updated version of this list in a matter of what, maybe 13 days, 12 days, about there. The reason why I'm bringing you guys such an early update of this deck is because after reviewing the old list, I found that there was quite a few problems within the deck for this current format. Although that old list did indeed work, believe me, it does function enough. I found that it didn't perform optimally for this format, and that this deck actually could have been a lot better in the old video that I posted. So I decided to re-update this deck, find the problems, isolate them, fix them, and bring this updated deck to you guys. So let's jump right into it, and I'll try and keep this one quick because there isn't really a ton of new things, but when I get to the new things, I'll make sure to talk about them. So let's go right into it. Starting off, we have the triple Light Pulsar Dragon. This is the main guy you want to see as early as you can, so we have to run 3 of him, because either if we mill him, draw him, or whatever, you just want to see Light Pulsar as soon as you can, so we do run the 3 Light Pulsar. Following the Light Pulsar, we have the 1 Dark Flare Dragon. We have Dark Flare here because Light Pulsar can float into it, and it can help us get our Cloggy hands on Cloggy, and also banishing monsters from our opponent's grave, especially Necros players or Ritual Beasts, or actually not Ritual Beasts, but maybe like Necros or Burning Abyss monsters or whatever. Like, banishing them is really helpful. So we do have the 1 Dark Flare to help us get those out, and to help us get our hands unclogged. So we do have the 1 Dark Flare. Following that, we have the 2 Black Dragon and we have the 2 White Dragon, because these are the guys we want to see for our rank 4 plays or our level 8 Synchro plays, because they float or they're just easy to summon. So we have the ratio of 2 and 2 because 3 will get a little cloggy, so you only really need 2 of each. Moving past that, we have some more Chaos Dragons in the form of the 1 Eclipse, Red Eyes, and Dark Armed. We have the Eclipse to search out our 2 big daddy dragons. And speaking of daddy, we have the 1 Dark Arm because Dark Arm is just too good not to run. And in that same note, we have the 1 Red Eyes because it's also too good not to run in this deck. So we have those guys. And then, finally, for the last couple Chaos Monsters, we have the 1 BLS and the 2 Chaos Sorcerer, because any Chaos-based deck should run these guys, because that is their basic namesake. So we do have the 1 BLS and 2 Chaos Sorcerer. Moving on, we have, for our first engine, we start off with the Lightsworn one. We start off with the triple Raiden, because Raiden provides on-turn milling, which is always nice to have, so it can jumpstart our deck during our turn rather than at our end phase, so we can still do something with the cards we mill. And he is also a level 4 tuner, so he can help us get into our bigger Synchros or our rank 4s. Following Raiden, we have the 3 Lyla Lightsworn Sorceress, because she is our simple back row removal, and she is our basic fill-in for MSTs. I won't say that Lyla is as useful as she was before, because things like Vanities and all that kind of stuff got hit to 1. So she isn't as important, but just having the 3 as our singular back row removal still can help us get out of the way of things like Mirror Force and odd things. So we have the 3 Lyla. And then finally, for the last 3 Lightsworns we do run the 3 Lumina, because having the ability to recur back our Lightsworns, as well as getting slow cards or dead cards out of our hand, really does help us get our big plays off. It can really help us combo into our big Synchros and our rank monsters. So we do have the 3 Lumina. Moving on, we start off with probably one of the first few notable changes of the deck. We start off with the Burning Abyss engine. We start with the 1 Turgide because, well, we can only run 1 Turgide, sadly. I wish we could still run 3, but oh well, Konami banned, or not banned, but limited it, so whatever. We have the 2 Skarm after that 1 Turgide to help us search out our Turgide, and our 1 additional new target, which is the 1 Curry Bandit that I do now run. First of all, I'd like to say I will give an apology out to the people that I talked with in the comments in the old video. There were quite a few of you guys who were asking on my reasoning of why I did not run 1 Curry Bandit, and I was a bit stubborn, and I guess you could say I really didn't like Curry Bandit as a card at the time, and I just really didn't test with it enough until now. And after testing with it extensively, I have started to agree with you all who said I should at least run 1 Curry Bandit, so I have put in the 1. Frankly, what Curry Bandit will do is it'll help you dig for your power spells in this deck. As previously, there were no, I guess you could say, ways to get your spell cards into your hand outside of just drawing into them. And in my opinion, that's a little bit too random and a little bit too slow. So I do have the one Curry Bandit in here now, just to help us dig for those spells. And again, it's a Skarm target, so we can't search it out, just for that consistency within the deck. And as we all know, Turgot the Skarms, that equals Dante, and Dante equals Milling, and Dante is good. So, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, this is the essential Burning Abyss engine of this deck now, and I am very pleased to run it. Moving on, we have the 2 Plague Spreader Zombie. I wish I could run 3 of this guy. Just right now, I could not find the room for a 3rd Plague Spreader. But Plague Spreader is very, very important to this deck because there are quite a few synchro plays where Plague Spreader is essential. And I'll get into that when we get to the synchros of this deck, but just trust me, Plague Spreader is mandatory at least 2, but I would bump it up to 3 if you can find the room. I just personally could not. But yeah, Plague Spreader is an extremely good card because we can mill it, and we can recur it back from our grave by stacking card, or we can, well, draw into it and normal summon it and do some pretty crazy combos if we have monsters on field already. So we do have the 2 Plague Spreader. Moving on to the last couple monsters, we start off with the 2 Gores. We have the Gores, obviously, for our defense of the deck, as there are times that we will draw into really slow hands, or our board might get nuked by ourselves or our opponent, yada yada yada. If we ever do have a clear field, we have the Gores, just so we don't die. So we have the 2 Gores for our hand traps. Finally, for the last monster we do run, it is one of those significant changes I also talked about. It's the Pero Sorceress. Now, I should get into the reason why I did run this guy. It's kind of obvious, but at the same time, it's kind of not. This guy is probably my favorite, if not one of my favorite Jin outs in the entire game right now. The primary reason is that because Pero synergizes with this deck so well that I still can't believe why I didn't think of this card in the first place. Pero, what it says is that if you take damage by battle or by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard, then target one card on the field and destroy it. So, with that simple effect, if you have it in the grave and your opponent has Jin Luck and they do damage to you, which they most likely will because you probably won't have an established board because you can't special summon, you can actually have Pero Sorceress to out that Jin because it'll immediately be able to blow it up, allowing you to, again, special summon. So, this adds another degree of, I guess you could say, of playability when you're playing against Necros with this deck, as, again, this format is plagued by that Jin, and just the Jin puts so much work this format. So you want to have the outs to it, and in the old deck list, I will admit I had 0, if not maybe 1 Jin out, which in my opinion was just absolutely disgusting, and it was horrible. So to alleviate that problem, I did add the 1 Pero, and I'm not gonna lie, I am really, really happy I have put this guy in, because he has just gotten me out of so many Jin locks for me to be able to come back, make an established board, and then beat the Necros player. As I will say that, yeah, your matchup still isn't gonna be, like, perfect. You're not gonna be wrecking Necros 100% of the time with just this 1 card, but it will improve your matchup significantly to the point where you still can play Yu-Gi-Oh! So we do have the 1 Pero. So that is it for the monsters. I believe it's about 32. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I believe it is 32. Moving on to these spells. We start off with the 2 Charger, the Light Brigade, because it's at 2 now, so searching out our Lightsworn is just that much easier. Really helps us jumpstart our deck and get the mills in. So we have the 2 Charge. Following the 2 Charge, we have the 2 Solar Recharge. The reason why I cut Solar from 3 to 2 is because, frankly, Lightsworn is probably the most relevant normal summon you have in this deck. Right after Turgot, as I will say, Turgot is probably the best normal summon you got. But, jumping off of that, I don't like Solar Recharge because of its cost, as that you have to discard a Lightsworn. As I have found many times within testing more of this deck, that if I do have a Lightsworn and discard, I usually will be wanting to normal summon that Lightsworn rather than pitch it for Solar, because the Lightsworns really do provide a lot for this deck in their effects, and that there were times when I just didn't want to use it for Solar Recharge. And sadly, because I was running at 3 before, I would see this combo quite often, and way more often than my liking would persist. So I did cut it down from 3 to 2 just so I wouldn't run into that situation that often, and that I could still see it whenever I might need it, and just have that happy medium of 2 Solars. So we do have just the 2 now. Moving on, we have our 3 pretty darn staple Jin outs in the form of 2 Dark Hole and the 1 Raigeki. We have the double Dark Hole Raigeki just for that obvious mass destruction, and we can run the Dark Hole in this deck just because we don't mind nuking our own board, because as that only just fuels our grave. And as you guys probably can guess, we need stuff in our grave to summon our big light pulsers and chaos sorcerers and whatnot. So we have the 2 Dark Hole just to help us out, as well as to nuke our opponent and to get that Jin off the darn field. So we do have those set of Jin outs. And then finally, for the last, not monster, but spell we do run in the main deck, we have the 1 Soul Charge, because we do mill a lot. We will get a lot of monsters into our graveyard. So having the Soul Charge to get them all back and then make pretty darn unbreakable boards with it is pretty darn stellar. So that is it for the 40-card main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, we start off with the pretty standard monsters that we had last time. We have the 1 Dante, because Dante first start is pretty good, I think. Or just Dante in general is really good in this deck. So we have the 1 Dante. You really don't need 2, because since Turgai did get hit to 1, we won't be needing more than 1 Dante anyway. So we just have the 1 Dante for when we are able to summon it. Next up, we have the other rank 3 that we do run, which is the 1 Levier, because we will be banishing a lot of our monsters from grave. So having the Levier to get them back for our banish pile, and then using them again on field, like our Raidens and our Lylas, which are probably the best things to banish for our Chaos Summons, I should mention, are pretty darn nice. Following all of that, we go into our singular rank 4. We have our 1 Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon. The reason why I have this guy in here is that there might be some odd times when you're going to run into a monster that you cannot run over for some reason within this deck. So having that easy access rank 4 in Dark Rebellion to help us get over pretty much any monster in the game is really good, as you really cannot get walled by a huge monster. And it really will help from you getting locked down in any way, shape, or form. So we do have the 1 Dark Rebellion as our singular rank 4. And then finally, for our last black card, we do have the 1 Constellar Ptolemy M7, because it is our singular rank 6, and it is probably the only rank 6 that I like to run in this deck, as all the other rank 6s are fairly lackluster when compared to the level 6s that we do run in this deck. So we do have the 1 M7 just because it's probably the best rank 6 in my opinion. So that is it for all them XYZ monsters. Moving on to the Synchros. We start off with the 1 Armades, because Armades can get around Valkyris, Armades can get around back row, Armades can just really help us get through problematic cards in this format. So we do have the 1 Armades. Following that, we have our 1 Goyo Guardian, because we go and steal your opponent's monsters and synchro up or overlay with them. And, well, that's really, really good. So we have the 1 Goyo for that. Moving on, we have the 2 level 7s in the form of 1 Black Rose Dragon for nuking the field. I should mention that this is the only axis, the only extra deck axis that we have to nuking the board. We do not run the Axis on Night because I did run out of extra deck space and I did have to cut it, sadly. But still, Black Rose Dragon is fairly easy to make with something like a level 3 and a Raiden or whatnot. So we do have the 1 Rose Dragon for that board nuking. The other level 7 synchro we do run is the 1 Michael the Arc Lightsworn, because Michael is our spot banishing removal, and there isn't a lot of things that resist banishing outside of maybe a Necros monster getting Trishula because we cannot target it or whatnot. But still, having the Michael for that just spot removal to get our opponent's El Shaddai monsters or our opponent's Dantes out of the game completely is always nice. Moving on, we have quite a bit of level 8 synchros. We start off with the 2 primary ones in the form of 1 Scrap Dragon and 1 Spark Dragon. We have these 2 because they're probably the best level 8 synchros in this format right now, in my opinion, and they're just too good not to run. And if you ever do get both of them on field, you can do some pretty nasty things with both of them. So we do have the 1 Scrap and Spark Dragon. Following those 2, we have the, I guess you could say, Plague Spreader specific synchros in the form of the 1 Void Ogre and the 1 Beals. Void Ogre is here for just general back row negation, as we will be losing our hand quite a bit to things like Lumina's effect and Light Pulser's effect from grave and whatnot. So we will be finding ourselves dumping our hand to the grave or onto the field at times. So we can usually combo into Void Ogre so that we can attack with some sort of insurance that we won't get something like Mirror Force or whatnot. And then we have the 1 Beals, because Beals is great and Beals can be made in this deck fairly consistently. So we have the 1 Beals. Moving on, we have actually a couple of level 10 synchros. We start off with the 1 Leo, because Leo is still great. Leo cannot be targeted, so there's a lot of things that it does get around. And just having access to Leo in general is really good. Then we have another level 10, surprisingly enough. We have, honestly, I still cannot pronounce this guy's name for the love of God, so don't even try and make me. He is run because, really, he's like a mini Dark Matter. I didn't think about running him at first because the way you have to make him is with 1 Dark Tuner and 1 level 8 Dragon, essentially. Well, that kind of just gives you guys a prelude of how I usually make it. But the reason why I do run this guy is because he is like Beals in the sense that he gives way more value to Plague Spreader, as you can essentially have a Light Pulser and a Plague Spreader that can be normal summoned from your hand, and you can make this guy. And he just has such a great effect, as he can burn your opponent for free damage, and he has the Dark Matter effect where he can attack twice on your opponent's monster. So he's huge, and he is, I would like to say, the biggest boss monster of our extra deck, as when you summon this guy, he really does put in a lot of work. So we do have one Drago Nether, whatever, this big dragon, I still cannot say it, whatever. And then finally, for the last extra deck monster we do run the one obligatory Star Eater as our level 11 Synchro, just because Star Eater gets around things like Mirror Force Deepers and then other random battle traps. So we have the one Star Eater. And then, just to throw it in, we have the one Gorge Token, because, yay, Gorge Token, why not? Alright guys, so that is it for my version 2 of this Chaos Dragon deck profile for this April 2015 format. Please let me know what you guys think of the changes of this deck that I made down in the comment section below. And if you guys have any ideas on how to improve this deck, feel free to comment your guys' thoughts and or suggestions down in the comments. I'm always open to listening to guys, and I really do love all of your feedback. As I won't lie, again, shoutouts to the guys who were telling me to run that Curry Bandit in the old video. You guys really did turn my eye onto the Curry Bandit, and again, I am very grateful. So, as always, I hope you did enjoy. And this is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.